Raise your hand if you work for a small business. Got it. Very good. All right. And then raise your hand if you were born and raised here in Navarre County. Awesome. Okay. Very good. So just to kind of help you guys kind of on some pointed answers, I'm going to set a timer with about 10 minutes left, and we'll certainly open it up for questions. But y'all, if you've got a question, particularly because it relates to finance and funding, which can have a lot of details and information, confusing items. If one of the guys or gals say something or I say something that's confusing, don't wait till the end to ask that question. Just shoot your hand up and say, can you clarify? And we'll definitely stop and answer that question. I'm going to introduce myself, and then we'll get to the main attraction, which is our panel here. My name is Matt Authier, and I was asked, it's a trend of the moderators so far, I was asked by my Corsicana High School classmate, Jarvis Brewer, to moderate this panel a few weeks ago. And there's not a lot of people I'll say no to, and Jarvis is certainly one of those that I wouldn't dare say no to. And I did want to mention on the eve of Veterans Day tomorrow, Jarvis is a veteran of the United States Navy. I am proud of him for his service. And if there's any other veterans in the room, would you just raise your hand at this time so that we can recognize those? Thank you very much. And I know Bridget will talk a little bit about programs that directly involve veterans as far as small businesses. I graduated in Corsicana in 2004. My wife, Kate, is also a proud graduate of Corsicana High School. We now reside in Waxahachie. Jarvis gave me incredible grief over that. Called me a traitor, I think, for doing that. We've resided in Waxahachie since 2010. We have 3 boys, Anderson, Brooks, and Campbell, ages 10, 8, and 6. My wife's a principal in the school district, the public school district there in Waxahachie, and I'm currently a mortgage loan originator at Gateway Mortgage. Right after Corsicana, I went to Texas A&M, where I got my bachelor's in accounting and a master's degree in finance, and sat and passed the CPA exam as well. I spent 4 years at a public accounting firm, Deloitte & Touche, right out of Texas A&M, and then was a controller for a hedge fund for about 4.5 years after that. And then I wanted to be back with my family. We had just had our 3rd kid. My loan was with Gateway at that time, and my loan originator asked me if I would ever be interested in switching professions. And I was tired of driving up I-35, spending about 2 hours on the road every day, missing T-ball games. And I took that job, and it's been an amazing experience. And so one of the interesting things and why I was so quick to say yes to Jarvis is I don't know how many of y'all know what mortgage rates are doing. Sky high. I saw that coming about 4 months ago, and I've kind of debated on how to put my CPA license back to work. I take my continuing ed every year, pay for that fee. And so I started a little bookkeeping business for small businesses, tax consulting, about 3 months ago. And so I've been sitting at that table in the back, just absorbing all the knowledge that these panelists have given us so far. So I appreciate this opportunity very much, kind of selfishly being able to take advantage of the information as well. On the panel this morning, we're going to talk about funding and finance. And I have the privilege to share the stage with 3 outstanding individuals with the wealth of knowledge in their respective fields. And at this point, I'm going to let each one tell a little bit about who you are, personal if you want, and then certainly what you do professionally.
Thanks, Matt. Is this loud enough? Good? All right. So Jake Griggs, born and raised as well in Corsicana, grew up in a self-operated, self-owned business. Johnny Sermon, Lincoln Mercury was my grandfather. My dad took on that business and then dissolved at some point when I was in high school. Same as Matt, went to Texas A&M University and actually lived next door to Matt. Matt failed to mention that he probably graduated with the 3.98-ish.
I made 1 B, and it was in online PE.
Yes. I was not near that smart, so Matt's always been a good mentor. 1 year above me in high school, and again, got to enjoy the time with him in college as well. Studied finance, Mays Business School, came back after a year of an intern at Community National Bank where Greg's at. Started my career there as a credit analyst, worked into lending, and then since then made a couple of moves. Left Community National to go manage a branch here in town for what was Citizens National Bank at the time. Transpired into Vera Bank, which is still in the market. And then the last 3 years went to City National Bank as a VP of lending there. And then in the last 90 days, purchased a local title company, abstracting company, Navarre County Abstract, and been drinking from a fire hose from the last 90 days, learning that. Outside of that, real estate investment, both personally and with my family, rental houses, working on a small development now, and then also a family cattle operation partnership between me, my brother, and my dad. So,
Awesome. Greg?
My name is Greg Olson. I am the Chief Lending Officer at Community National Bank here in Corsicana, or that's where we're based out of. Grew up in Navarro County, have a trend going. I went to A&M as well, and so definitely enjoyed my time down there. Stayed down and got my master's, and I came back here and kind of was looking for a job, just like a lot of people didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. But one of the guys on the board said, "Hey, why don't you come give banking a try?" And never thought I would be back in Corsicana, or never thought I would, or never really thought about banking. But that was 20 years ago, and so I've been with Community National for 20 years this coming January, and it's been a great experience. I have really loved it. We've grown a lot. Used to, I think a lot of people from here know Corsicana National Bank. But we have 13 locations now. We're up over $1 billion in assets, and so we're growing, continue to grow, and it's fun to be able to hire people from this area that want to work here and have a good job. So I've really enjoyed that as well. Family, that have a wife that is a school teacher here in Corsicana, and have 3 kiddos.
Awesome. Bridget?
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for having us. We definitely want to outreach today to the veteran community. As he mentioned, I'm Bridget Moon. I'm with the Small Business Administration. We are a federal agency. I am the Economic Development Specialist as well as the Veteran Business Development Officer for our 72 counties that we cover. So very broad reach for such a small office that we have up there in Euless. Our main office is in Euless. I have business cards here, so please, grab one when we're done, just to let you know a little bit about what I do. We do a lot of outreach efforts to let people know within the community about what SBA is. And SBA helps facilitate financing options through approved lenders. Okay, and there's a lot of different options, and we'll definitely touch base with that. And then we also partner up on a national level, resource partners that help you. And you had the SBDC in the last panel, and that offer that free counseling. And we'll go over a few of those as well that's beyond the SBDC. And just, a little bit about myself. I've been a serial entrepreneur since the age of 18. I currently still have a business. Actually, I have a business in Ennis, so not very far from here, Corsicana. I've been with the agency for 26 years, 21 years of being with the disasters office side of SBA, and 5 years here with the district office. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so the way we're going to kind of stage this panel is go through the life cycle of a small business or an entrepreneur. And I'm going to ask each of the panelists kind of a direct question that they'll answer themselves, and then we'll have a couple where they can all chime in. In our school district, I recently saw a video where they're interviewing these 6th, 7th, 8th graders that have small businesses, and I think it's great. They're basically telling them why they got into it, how they go about it, what money do they decide to charge for these products. One of them's making like these little slime containers. Other one's hand drawing stickers and having them printed. Other one's cutting yards and doing lawn services. And so it's awesome to see that drive and kind of that entrepreneurial spirit that we all know so well. And so, Jake, I'm going to ask you this first. Certainly because you just bought a business and kind of going through this in a mindset. And I'm going through it 3 months ago, deciding to kind of start my own side hustle, if you will. And not even talking about the banking aspect just yet. We'll get to that with Greg in just a second. But what are some of those things that when the idea in your head starts to become real and you're going to open that business or buy that small business, what are some of those things that you originally need to get prepared?
well, I got a long answer and a short answer. I think short answer would be one of my lifelong sayings and from a favorite movie is, if you build it, they'll come. And that's not true. It's not true in business. And you could even say if they owe you, they'll pay you. That's not true. If you offer it, they'll use it. It's not true. But, just like with anything in life, planning is just so vital. And preparing a business plan and sitting at a lender's desk, I'm not really speaking about a a written out business plan that has a pretty folder with a pretty cover letter with great graphs and charts. But a in-depth, well thought out, from every angle, from every perspective, from short-term to long-term business plan. Starting with what service, what product are you going to offer? And understanding the overall demand, whether that's a local market demand or a global demand. Understanding your competition, again, local, global competition. There's a ton of industries now over the last 5 to 7 years that technology has just really impacted. That's replaced some services, that's allowed people that aren't even in a certain industry to impact the industry and become more competitive, and causing certain business owners to adapt and better understand what that competition has done to their price point and their margins. From banking, my experience, understanding capital needs is probably one of the biggest things that I had discussion with and gave advice to my customers. That's understanding your short-term and your long-term goals. Talking about small businesses, there's such a diverse intent of small business, whether that's just a hobby business that will break even and you'll have some enjoyment out of it, making that widget that you enjoy making, or is that a small business that you hope to one day replace your full-time job or be the sole provider of your family? So, the way I look at small business is there's an intent there that's all you're going to do at one point, and you're going to hopefully scale it and grow it to where it can provide financially for what you need. But so understanding those capital needs, understanding the capital needs of what it's going to take for you to grow that business to that goal level of supporting your family or providing the amount of income that you prefer. Understanding the capital needs of a downturn. My life is heavily vested in real estate, and we're there. We're at a downturn. Our orders have dropped, our orders have slowed. So understanding what needs and financial needs we'll need during that time, and what are some of the hard decisions we're going to make, and hopefully find the positives in the downturn of revamping some processes or adding some technology or being better prepared for when the scale up comes, because it will come. It's kind of putting myself back at the lender's desk, understanding capital as far as depleting assets. I saw so many times that an individual small business owner wanted to come in and buy a piece of equipment or buy a truck and hot shot or whatever that is. And they understood that they could make X amount of dollars per day with the hard cost that was put into that day. But they didn't understand the cost of depleting that asset, that $80,000 truck that's going down the road every single day, or that $120,000 bulldozer that they're reducing the value of that and not really calculating that into their margin and their true cost of it. Growth. Any business comes down to managing employees, and when you say, I'm going to grow a business to this point, that growth is going to depend on hiring additional employees, because whether you're the best cabinetry or best construction or best equipment operator, you can only operate one piece of equipment. You only can build one cabinet at one time. So you're going to have to scale that employee size to scale your volume, to scale your profits. Understanding, what skills you need as far as employees. Are those skills available in the local market? And again, the capital that's going to be required to purchase the additional equipment, the additional real estate, the additional inventory, whatever it might be. Managing employees, so important. Training, morale, environment morale, understanding what satisfies each employee, so you can work around that to make sure they're happy coming to work every day. And then what we'll speak about later is understanding financials, tax liability, cash flow, revenue streams, timingness of revenue streams. Are you a retail center that's a point of sale system that you basically sell a product, you get paid that day, and it's in your bank account the next day? Or are you servicing to the oil and gas industry that on average is a 90-day pay time limit? So understanding the capital that goes along with those revenue streams and the timeliness of those revenue streams. And then, understanding legal matters, understanding regulatory compliance. The business I just purchased felt like I was married to TDI, Texas Department of Insurance, for 6 weeks of my life, getting the appropriate certificates, getting the appropriate bonds, getting the appropriate everything, it felt like. So understanding that and what it takes to not only get that certificate or license to go into that industry, or to the compliance that is needed to maintain good compliance within that industry. And then in today's world, understanding the future of the industry that you choose to go into. How is it changing? What does it look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Prime example, the business I just purchased, title company. TDI requires you to own what's called a title plant to write any type of title policy. The good thing about the company we bought was there's only 2 title plants in Navarre County. Therefore, no other title policy company could come into Navarre County without going through us to write a title policy. I know that's the change, though, because it's changed in markets surrounding DFW, markets surrounding Austin, markets surrounding San Antonio. Large companies are coming into these smaller markets and either building or acquiring title plants. Therefore, they can subscribe that title plant out to anybody in the state of Texas to write a title policy. It scares me, but I understand it. I know competition will increase at that time when a large company comes in and does that. So understanding that, knowing that I have to capitalize over the next 5, 7, 10 years, whatever that be, to take advantage of that strength I have right now, but understanding that strength might possibly fade away at some point.
Sure. Perfect. Thank you, Jake. And that, I'm kind of dealing with some of those same questions, trying to figure out, I'm in the mortgage business, which is 100% commission. So if I don't close a loan that month, I don't get a paycheck. And when we saw rates go 5, 6, 7, now 7.5, the writing on the wall was there. And so deciding, all right, do I want to get, dive full in on this bookkeeping and tax consulting side of the business, and then all of a sudden mortgages are going to, rates are going to come back down. We're going to get busy again. So that scalability of how busy do you want to be? How busy can you tolerate being? Does that mean more employees and paying somebody to do things that you don't have time to do? And once you've answered all those questions and decided, all right, this is what I want to do, I think the most intimidating part of starting a new business or being a small business owner is often sitting across from Greg. Hopefully, I don't think he's intimidating at all. But that process of, all right, now I got to go to the bank, and there's a chance they may say no. And what does that mean for my hopes and dreams, for my family, for my income? And so, Greg, I kind of want you to address the spark. Imagine that a small business owner, an entrepreneur, is coming into your office for the first time. You've never met them, never talked to them. What are things that, one, you expect them to already have done, and then ways that you coach them on, hey, you may not be ready yet, but here's how you get there?
Thank you. Obviously, what we hope they have, or what I hope they've already done, is developed a good team. And I know that it's been talked a lot about so far, but whether you're starting a new business, or especially if you're starting a new business, you need to have a good team. You need to have somebody that is a bookkeeper, or you need to really understand QuickBooks. Obviously, depending on the size and complexity of the loan request, there are different, ways to look at it, but you have to have a good team around you, a bookkeeper. I hope that you have, looking back just a little bit, I hope before you start your business and before you come in to talk to us, you have established a little bit of a relationship with a banker, a local bank or somebody, just because you can kind of start that process a little bit earlier. And then somebody else on that team that I hope that you would have if you're looking at starting a new business is, I hope you have already reached out to the SBDC. They do. I know every panel has talked about them so far. They do an excellent job of getting you ready to come talk to us. And so, that was one thing we were seeing. More and more people were coming in for a small business loan, and you could tell if they went out to the SBDC or not. If they did, they came and they brought stuff to you. If they didn't, they just said, hey, I want a loan, where do we start? And so, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But, the process is a whole lot shorter if you have. So we're big fans of the SBDC. We hired one of their people. And we've appreciated that without question. So building a good team is what I would say first. Once you come in, just to go back to banking school just a little bit, for a small business, that we always hear the 5 C's of credit. And those are the things that we look for. One, and most importantly, is character. Does this person have a history of paying people back? that's pulling your credit report. The best indicator of future performance is past performance, right? And so if they pay, that obviously is something that we're going to look at. Something else that we can look at that goes with character is, if they have established a relationship with you, you know their business. And so that's another reason that I would encourage you to definitely, develop a relationship with somebody at a bank. The next biggest thing is capacity. Do they have the ability to repay? In the mortgage world, it's a debt to income ratio. How much income you have versus how much debt you have going out every month. On the commercial side, it's cash flow. Jake talked about it a little bit, and it is extremely, extremely important. It can be complex. It can be simple. Basically, do you generate enough income to pay your debt? And so, with this new debt, if you want a $100,000 loan or $1 million loan, there are monthly debt payments that you're going to have that you didn't have before you came in. And so we got to be able to look back at your income to see if that's going to take care of that. And so that's something that's extremely important. The third C is capital. What type of cash do you have? There's a definite saying in the banking industry, cash is king. If you have some cash and you are willing to put your cash in on this deal, that tells us how much you're vested in the deal. We don't want to take 100% of the risk. We're not managing it. You are managing it. So we want you to feel confident in the business that you have. Hopefully by dealing with those business plans and what Jake talked about earlier, you do feel confident because you've gone out and done your history or your research on the industry. But how much risk you're willing to take. Fourth C is collateral. What is our collateral? A lot of times in the mortgage world, the collateral is your house, right? And so if you don't pay that, hopefully you do, but the bank has a little bit of recourse there to utilize that collateral and foreclose on it if we have to. But a lot of times people don't really think about the collateral that they're going to have if they're in a service business, which they talked about earlier. So just kind of thinking about those things, what your loan to value is, how much money you're going to put into it as well. And the fifth C is conditions. That's something that's not always within your control, but it's just the economy that you're in. It's the industry that you're in. It's the purpose of the loan, exactly what you're doing. So those are kind of the 5 C's of credit that I just kind of wanted to run through real quick because that's what it seems a whole lot more. You can go off different ways depending on the actual request, but that's the basic things that we look at when we have a loan application.
Perfect. And I'm going to ask, this is my ignorance, and I'm not putting you on the spot here, but I think of terms of mortgages, 5% down, 20% down. If something happens, I have the ability to go get that house, try to sell it, and get the bank's money back. In the case of a business, and I know terms are different, I'm not asking for the bank's particular terms, but just give us an idea, and I'm asking personally too. Like if I need a $100,000 loan and I do not have any prior history of running a business, this is a brand new idea. What does that down payment or collateral look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically in a bank, historically 80%, your 80% loan to value. So if we did if you were buying a $100,000 piece of equipment, we would loan 80% of that. It's kind of a quick answer to that. Depending on the type of collateral, we go down to 75% on some things, but 75 to 80% with the bank loan.
Got it. Okay, very good. Before we move on to specific SBA questions, did anybody have a banking question that you wanted to ask Jake or Greg before we move on to that one? We also have time at the end, but just wanted to stop. Okay. All right. So Bridget, we're going to go to you now. And I'll be honest, this is an area that I have no clue about. And I think what I've learned in hearing the first 3 panels, including ours, is that maybe particularly how you come alongside a bank like Greg's and help and how y'all work together. And then we'll end your part with the resources out there are pretty tremendous. I don't know how many people utilize those as often as we hope they would, but there's really no question that shouldn't be unanswered even by just the people in this room today. So Bridget, if you'll talk a little bit about the SBA, maybe some specific veteran or women's business initiatives that you guys have.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. First off, I can't say ditto to what these two have said. The reason is first and foremost, I'll touch base on the resource partners. But can I see a show of hands for those that are business owners that have done a business plan? Okay. I'm going to encourage Can you hear me now? A little better? No?
I have to yell.
Hello? I'm a little hoarse from a cold, so let's see. All right, how's that? Is that better? All right, thank you. All right, so for those that, since we don't have anyone that's done a business plan, it can be very daunting and very overwhelming when you look at examples or you're like, wow, how do I put this together? Our resource partners are there for you to help you out there at no cost. So I have people call me all the time. They say, I spent $1,500. I spent this much money to get certified for the federal government. I had one person, I just about cried for them. They spent over $2,000. These are services that are free. Your tax dollars pay for your resource partners that I'm going to mention. Okay, the business plan is vital for a success of a business, and here's why. Not only does it get you the financing, the overview, okay, to make sure that your business is vital and that it's sustainable on what your product or service is, but it's also a way you can check when you do your business plan, there's projections, whether you're doing a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. You can go back, and I encourage the first year in business, monthly, you're looking at your projections. Are you meeting what you projected? And if not, why not? Because you can determine so much within that month, okay, whether your business is on track. So maybe your revenues are down in that 30 days. Well, why? Maybe you didn't spend the money that you allotted for marketing. Maybe you put it in somewhere else. Maybe you had an unexpected expense in maintenance or a repair. So that way allows you to adjust accordingly. And then at your 6 months, and you're still doing that every month for the year. So you get to know your business ins and outs. And as he mentions, those trends. What are the upcoming trends? Whether it's social or economic, okay? Because it's very important. Everybody's product and service is going to be different and looked at different. And only you know your business better than anybody else. And so when you write your business, and that's another reason why you should never hire somebody to do your business plan. Because when you come up to a banker, you have that 90 seconds to kind of catch their eye of your product and service. And if you have someone else doing it, you're probably not as excited or knowledge of your business plan. As he mentioned, character, part of that 5 C's. That's where that kind of comes into play. You have to come in and show that you know your business. Working with our resource partners, I'm still going to mention them, that is going to enable you to work with somebody that's done these many times, has software programs that can work with you. With one thing the pandemic has definitely helped is gotten everybody on board with webinars and being able to connect video. So we don't have to travel across the Metroplex or a distance to get the assistance or the expertise that you need. So we mentioned the Small Business Development Center. Excellent resource partner, okay? I encourage everybody to utilize all the resource partners I'm going to mention. You don't have to pick one. I always say the more heads, the better you're going to get, the outcome, ideas, the creativity, okay? So small business development centers, there are so many, whether you're doing a business here locally, you can look them up at their national webpage, which is americaspbdc.org, and you can put your zip code in and find the nearest one. Same thing with another organization that's part of our resource network. It's called SCORE, S-C-O-R-E, like you score a touchdown, and they're .org. What I love about SCORE, too, is they do a one-on-one mentoring. Sometimes, we need that somebody we can call upon all the time that you've already talked to one time. And so you don't want to have to keep repeating your story over, right? So if you have a mentor, guess what? You've already sat down with them initially. They're familiar with what your product and service or where you want to take your business, and they can help you go forth. And all these resource partners, it doesn't mean just for someone that's just starting up. This is for if we had some hands up here for people that were already in business. So if you're already in business, sometimes, especially with the market the way it is right now, You might, in the pandemic, how many of you guys had to reinvent yourself? What you do? You know, the restaurants, more deliveries, more longer extended times through drive-throughs. You know, less time, you know, shutting down the dining room. I talked to one restaurant owner, and they said, we make more money through our drive-through than our dining room open. We'll probably never open our dining room again. But now, because they reinvented who they are and what they do, and so they've been able to, you know, up their service through their drive-through, and they sustain themselves. So when you're up in, as they mentioned about the trends, you have to really kind of think about that, you know, what that looks like. And being with a mentor, they've seen it a lot. I can't say they've seen it all, but they've seen a lot, you know, as far as the businesses. And one thing what they'll do is when you fill out that information online to request your mentor, it takes about 5 to 10 business days. Not very long at all. They're going to try to pair you up based on what your need is. So many times, social media is a big thing. A lot of people, how many people can operate TikTok, Instagram, Facebook? Is there anyone an expert here? Then there's no reason why everyone should be getting on board with one of these resource partners, because social media is part of almost every business. And it's free. So they can connect you there. Another thing the SCORE can do is if we had an instance, a applicant that was coming through, or not an applicant, but they needed help. They were in the filming industry. Now, I'm in Northern Texas. It's pretty good. Got some fame for, you know, the filming industry, but not necessarily the strong mentor that this person probably needed. SCORE was able to connect somebody out in California for that to get the help they need. So it's not just beyond the local that they're going to look for. They're also going to see if we don't have someone to fit the bill, what outside in our resources across the United States is going to help this small business? Okay? So, and then also, if you have a personality clash, you feel like, hey, my mentor isn't on the same page with me. I have this grand vision. He's wanting me to narrow it down. I'm just not feeling it. You can go to SCORE, no buts. They'll get you a new mentor. They want you to succeed, our resource partners. It's their goal. Then we have the Women's Business Center, one of our third resource partners. Now, men, you can go there as well. It just caters to the women. Women have a tendency to be a little bit more reserved, a little bit more shy, so it's a little bit tailored towards them. They have workstations, ladies. So if you need help with computer or you know, putting something together, they've got copiers and printers and all that stuff. They have workshops, just as our other two resource partners. We just got one here probably about over 3 years ago in Dallas. And you can actually go to sba.gov, and up at the top menu, it says local assistance. Click on that, put your zip code in, and all your local resource partners that are around you will populate. And then if you want to narrow that search, when you've done that search, it'll allow you to narrow it down by the resource partner right to the right side of it. And then that way you can pick accordingly as well, or pick all of them. And then for my veterans, how many veterans we have here? All right, how about any spouses of veterans or military community? Okay, great. Thank you very much for your service. It's an honor to serve you here through SBA as a Veteran Business Development Officer. We have a Veteran Business Outreach Center in Arlington and the College of Business at UTA. I highly suggest you get connected through them as far as the veteran community. Anything on the federal level is also eligible for the spouses. So we have a loan program that is the SBA Express loan program. And for our veterans, our upfront guarantee fees are waived, and it can go up to $500,000. And it's also eligible for the spouses, okay? I encourage also for those that are looking for funding in general, don't wait till you need it, okay? Look at what your business, as they mentioned before, that scalability, that's where that business plan, you know, in that second year are you planning growth? Don't get into the point where you're utilizing your credit cards, as he is talking about utilization, your credit. Don't get to that point where your credit score just plummets because now you have no utilization of your cash flow. It's all being paid on credit cards. Whether it's an SBA finance program such as the SBA Express, because it can be done as a line of credit or a loan. And it's not just for veterans, it's just the veterans get a little discount. That's something that you might utilize, whether it's a small line of credit or a large line of credit. Obviously, you're going to have to explain what you need it for or what you're planning to use it for. But I encourage, because it makes it harder if you're in a situation where you're needing funds in a desperate situation. The pandemic definitely made a huge impression of the unexpected on small businesses, right? So I know we're going to touch base a little bit more on that later, so I'll come back to that. But on the Veteran Business Outreach Center, its nickname is VBOC, okay? And it'll be on the resources on our webpage as well. But what it also does, and what we do and what I do, is we do a Boots to Business program that we go on the bases. So in our 72 counties, we have Fort Hood, we have the NSAJRB over there in North Fort Worth, and then we have Shepherd up there in Wichita. And we go on the base and we facilitate this Boots to Business program for 2 days. And it's, again, it's for anyone that can get on base that is a veteran or active military from another source and their spouse. And we go through with guests also that come in with their expertise, but we facilitate a very entry level about business, how to start, what that looks like. We tap into federal contracting and so forth. We also do this off base, and it's called Reboot. We just did one to kick off. Last week was our National Veteran Small Business Week. So we kicked off one out of our district office on Monday. For those that want to, stay connected, I encourage to get connected with the newsletters, whether it's our district office or the resource partners. All of them have workshops. Some are free, some are nominal fees. So take a look at them. Texas Workforce Commission, the lady that was up here earlier, mentioned to you about a lot of their free training. Okay, so you can really get everything you need. A lot of I know some small business development centers have software programs and free training of that software, no cost. They're also a great resource to help you do your business plan. Like, I know there's a tool, like a couple of the small business development centers have a software called Size Up. It basically helps you do your marketing section of your business plan. It tells you what your demographics are, who's your competition. Instead of, back in the day, you could go to the phone book, right? And you go up and you say, okay, here's all the bookstores. Well, and you can Google, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get all of them, because they might not be on that first page. And then you go to the second page and you're getting over in another county. And so it's like they can go based upon your location and go in a 5, 10, 15-mile radius right away and tell you where your competition. And then say, okay, well, you want to be located here. Did you know you have competition around the corner? How are you going to scale yourself to be different from them? That's important. And never be satisfied to where you're at. Constantly take a look into your business. What is your competition doing? Why aren't you doing it better? That's what you should be asking yourself. What's their customers? Well, how can I get their customers to come to me? What's that look like?
It's perfect. Mm-hmm. Bridget, you said something I made a note on, and we got about 4 minutes left. Does anybody have a specific question before I kind of wrap up with this last comment about banking finance? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. If you go to www.sba, so Sam Boy app, .gov.
SBA.gov.
Yeah. And then go to the menu at the top, it says local assistance, and then it'll pop up. You actually click, don't hover, click on it, and it'll ask for your zip code. And the resource partners will populate with websites, phone numbers, addresses. Perfect.
And then just in closing here, I'm going to go back to Jake and Greg. From the banking side of things, I think the last moderator made this comment of how important it is to pay others to do services that either bore you or don't earn you money, so that you can spend your time generating revenue for your business. I've certainly seen the 10 to 12 clients that I'm working with on the bookkeeping side, just like a weight off their shoulders, not to be up at night on QuickBooks, generating payroll, paying bills and doing that thing and doing what they do best by selling their product or providing their service. So just in closing, Jake and Greg, are there landmines or traps that you've seen small business owners kind of fall into, or something they did like before they went to go to the bank to kind of start that process that you would say, hey, here's something that you might want to look for and avoid going into it that could really kind of ham you up when you're trying to get a bank loan?
I think just the importance again of having that person that you can go to that understands financials, that understands tax returns, that understands cash flow. Again, when we're from a banking perspective, we talk cash flow a lot, and that's something that I think most small businesses understand a little bit. They just want to make sure they make enough, that they make as much money as they can, and they're spending their time doing what they do best, and that's awesome. But on the other hand, if you have somebody there that can kind of help you understand that, hey, whether it's growth or whether it's just whatever it is, we have to be able to show the bank that we can support this loan. And so having somebody there, I think that can help them through that process just helps tremendously.
Perfect. Jake, anything to add?
So I think probably one of the key points is do what you know and focus on that. If you're a good widget builder, build your widgets. And the landmines or the horror stories I've kind of seen or been a part of is a result of that individual, that business owner, trying to do what they don't know. Trying to mitigate the cost of an attorney or a consultant or a bookkeeper, accountant, and then living those errors and those decisions out. Whether it's legal matters, whether they look up and realize they should have had an E&O policy, errors and omission policy to cover some type of liability, or construction company getting sued, or looking up and having a tax audit because they tried to do their bookkeeping throughout the year and the information they provided their CPA was just not accurate. So really focus on doing what you know, and I understand being frugal and saving costs, but sometimes you got to pay for expertise.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
It takes a long time to set up good processes, and it takes a very short time to screw them up, and what could cost you a lot of money in your business. So I'll just say this as we close. I have never been a part of 3 panels that were exactly on time. They told me 11:35, and that is where we're at. So I'm going to turn it back over. I know these 3 folks will stay right up here if you've got questions for them in the interim. And then I think the only thing standing between